All right, listeners, welcome back to another deep dive. Today we're going way back to the first millennium AD in Europe.
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
It is. That's like, from the year 1 to the year 1000.
A whole millennium.
A whole millennium, exactly. And we're going to be looking at migration patterns, how people moved around.
It's a really dynamic period, a lot going on.
Oh, yeah, tons going on. And you actually sent in, one of our listeners sent in a really cool article about this new method. It's called Twigstats.
Oh, yeah, Twigstats is really cool.
Yeah, it's like totally changing how we view, migration in Europe during this time.
I know, it's so cool how it can, pinpoint these recent mutations in DNA, like the tiny little changes over generations.
Okay, so, how does that even work?
So, imagine you're trying to find, a specific family in a crowded city, right? Twigstats acts like a highlighter, picking out those unique genetic markers that set them apart.
Oh, okay. So it's like finding a needle in a haystack, but Twigstats is like a magnet, right? It just pulls that needle right out.
Exactly. And because of that, we can zoom in on specific migration events during this millennium with incredible accuracy. Like we're seeing the movements of people unfold in real time.
Wow. That's insane. So what did Twigstats actually uncover? What did it reveal about these migrations?
Well, the research uncovered 3 distinct ways of migration.
3?
3 during this period. It's like a complex dance across the continent with some people moving south, others north, and eventually, outward.
So not just a steady flow of people, but actual distinct movements with different origins, different destinations.
Right, good, exactly.
That's incredible. So tell me more about the first wave. I remember learning about Germanic tribes heading south during the early Iron Age, but it always felt so distant, like something out of a history book.
Yeah, it can feel that way, can't it? These are just stories. But here's where Twigstats gets really exciting. It actually provides hard genetic evidence that backs up those historical accounts.
Oh, wow. So it's not just stories passed down. We're actually seeing the evidence of these movements in people's DNA, across Europe.
Exactly. We're talking physical evidence.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
That's amazing. Okay, so where did these Germanic tribes end up? Was it just around the borders of the Roman Empire, or did they venture further?
Oh, they went much further. Their genetic traces, were finding them all over southern Germany, Italy, Slovakia, Poland, even southern Britain.
Wow. So
Right.
They really got around. That's a huge area.
Yeah, it was a massive movement of people.
And they were influencing the very fabric of Europe, even reaching the heart of the Roman Empire. Does that change our understanding of the Roman Empire at all?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, It really challenges that traditional view of a pure Roman Empire, because what we're seeing is a much more complex picture.
Right, much more diverse.
Yeah. A melting pot of cultures and ancestries, even at the center of Roman power.
It kind of makes you rethink those, those classic images of Romans, doesn't it? It's just so much more dynamic. Were there any discoveries in particular that kind of stood out to you?
Yeah, one that really caught my eye was an individual found in southern Europe who had 100% Scandinavian-like ancestry.
Wait, whoa. 100%.
100%. It's like finding a Viking artifact in Pompeii.
Oh my gosh, that's a great way to put it. Imagine their journey ending up so far from home. It makes you wonder about their story, right? Were they a traitor, a captive?
Right, or something else
I
entirely.
don't know. We'll never know for sure.
We'll never know, but it's just so fascinating to think about.
It really is. It just shows you how much we don't know, right? And how these individual stories can really add depth to our understanding of the past.
Oh, absolutely. And it goes beyond individual journeys, too. The routes that these Germanic groups took, they're reflected in the branches of the Germanic language family today.
Wait, so we're seeing the origins of languages, the words we speak today written in their DNA.
Exactly.
It's incredible.
That's mind-blowing. Okay, so we've got this massive movement of people heading south, influencing everything from the Roman Empire to, how languages develop. I mean, it's just amazing. But you mentioned a second wave, right? A movement back north into Scandinavia just before the Viking Age.
Yeah, just before the Viking Age.
Now, this seems a little counterintuitive.
It does, doesn't it?
What would prompt this sudden shift in direction?
That's a great question. It's a real head-scratcher. But remember, history, well, it rarely follows a straight line. Just as these Germanic groups were pushing south, something else was brewing.
So while some were heading south, others were making their way back north towards Scandinavia.
Huh.
What was the draw? That's the big question. Researchers are still piecing it all together. What we do know is that thanks to Twigstats, a lot of Viking Age individuals in Scandinavia, especially down south, show a good chunk of Central European ancestry. Like, their ancestors went on this epic European tour before settling in Scandinavia.
A centuries-long road trip. So it wasn't just a few individuals. This Central European ancestry was pretty common.
Well, yeah, widespread. And they didn't just stop for a quick visit either. Over in Öland, in Sweden, researchers analyzed teeth from burials. Those with Central European ancestry. They actually grew up on the island.
Wow, so they weren't passing through, they were putting down roots, raising families, becoming part of the community. It really changes how we think about Vikings, right? Not just these fierce raiders.
Definitely adds a new dimension. It makes Viking Age society even more fascinating, and it raises even more questions about this whole northward migration.
Any theories out there? Was it conflict, economics, something else entirely?
Well, we haven't cracked the code yet, but there is archaeological evidence hinting at some unrest and conflict in Scandinavia around that time.
Oh, interesting.
So perhaps those migrations were a reaction to all that upheaval, people seeking refuge or opportunity.
It really makes you think about all those individual stories, doesn't it? Families uprooted, journeys made, new beginnings. People were constantly adapting, even back then.
Absolutely, always on the move. And speaking of adapting, let's jump to that third wave Twigstats revealed, the Viking expansion outward from Scandinavia during the Viking Age proper. Now we're talking those iconic raiders and explorers.
All right, now that's the Viking Age everyone pictures. A bit of adventure, maybe a healthy dose of fear, too. How does this wave connect with the first two, though? Same movement or something totally new?
It's a bit of both. Twigstats confirms that Scandinavia was already a melting pot, thanks to those earlier migrations. But what's fascinating is that this outward wave amplified that diversity, creating new connections across Europe and even beyond.
So the Viking raids and settlements, it wasn't just about conquest. They were spreading this blend of Scandinavian and Central European ancestry far and wide.
Exactly. It's a great reminder that human history, it's rarely about isolation or single groups. It's about constant interaction, exchange, the blending of cultures.
It sounds like Twigstats gives us a much more nuanced understanding of the Vikings, going beyond those simple stereotypes. What specific connections did it actually uncover?
Well, for instance, we find Viking Age individuals in present-day Ukraine and Russia who have ancestry from modern-day Sweden.
Wow, all the way from Scandinavia to the eastern edges of Europe. That's incredible. Were there similar connections in other parts of Europe?
Oh, absolutely. Over in Britain, Twigstats found individuals with ancestry from modern-day Denmark. More evidence of those Viking incursions into the British Isles.
So it wasn't just quick raids. These were settlements, bringing the mixing of cultures and ancestries, just like we saw earlier. But I'm curious, were all those interactions peaceful? I mean, the Vikings had a reputation for a reason, right? I mean, some encounters had to be a little more, well, intense, right?
Yeah, not all sunshine and roses. And Twigstats actually backs that up. In Britain, they found mass graves from the Viking Age, men who died violently. Analysis showed strong Scandinavian ties, suggesting these might have been Viking raiders who met a rather grim end.
So maybe captured and executed. Or lost a battle. A reminder that the Viking Age, for all its exploration and exchange, it was also a pretty brutal time.
Definitely. It adds a layer of realism, reminding us that history isn't just these big stories. It's about people's lives, and sometimes their deaths.
It really is amazing how Twigstats connects those personal stories to the bigger picture, like zooming in and out of a historical map, seeing both the broad strokes and the little details.
And what's really cool, Twigstats isn't limited to just Europe or this time period. It has huge potential. Imagine using it to explore migrations all over the world in different eras.
So Asia, Africa, the Americas, anything goes. It's like a universal key to unlock migration secrets throughout history.
Exactly. And with technology always moving forward, who knows what other breakthroughs are coming in ancient DNA research? There are so many stories still waiting to be discovered.
This has been an amazing deep dive. We started with the limitations of traditional DNA analysis, explored the game-changing Twigstats. We traced those 3 major migrations that reshaped Europe, found those hidden connections, and really challenged some old assumptions. It's like rewriting history with DNA.
And we're just scratching the surface. As we dig deeper into this ancient DNA, who knows what other mysteries we'll uncover? What other links will we find between the past and present?
And to our listener out there, we leave you with this thought. What other hidden stories are just waiting to be found as technology evolves? What could they teach us about ourselves, about how connected we all are? Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into this incredible world of history and science.